Okay, so welcome to our fourth lecture regarding China. And as you can see, oh, you don't see it yet in the recording, but I'm going to show you later the GIF that I have chosen for this lecture. Now, there is a reason why I chose this because in this lecture, we are going to talk about drugs, okay? We are going to talk about the period in Chinese history when virtually every Chinese person was a drug addict. Okay, so, and the particular drug that we are going to be talking about is opium. And opium is a narcotic drug and it's a downer. And then it causes hallucinations. So that is why I chose this because, frankly, if you watch Alice in Wonderland, that's what this cartoon is. It's one of the trippiest things ever. So, that is kind of like the whole vibe that I wanted to present today. Okay, so imperialist nations bring change to China. As you already know, I hope one of the things that the Chinese were greatly allergic to are the presence of foreigners. You remember during the Ming Dynasty when all they wanted to do was kind of cleanse China of even the smell of Mongolia. They just wanted to cleanse China from all of that. That is why they even resorted to give up their very successful navy business with Zheng Ho, and they just canceled all that, and then they said, let's isolate, okay? Kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. So that is nag-Elsa mode sila ngadto. And this did not work, however, because they had one their worst nightmares returned, wherein they were taken over by the Manchus, and the Manchus were foreigners. And the Manchus started the Qing dynasty, and the Qing dynasty will become the last ruling dynasty in China. Okay. Yeah, the caterpillar is smoking opium. Okay, now the Manchus maintain the tributary system. So let's talk about the tributary system first. Now, because China considered foreign countries, let me flip this over. Because China considered all foreigners as inferior, they really did not have respect for foreigners. They every time there was a foreigner, they were like, "Oh, you're not Chinese, you must be a barbarian." So even Europeans, they considered them as inferior. Um, so these foreigners were expected by the Chinese to join the tributary system. Now, as a sign of respect for the emperor, now grabe kay ni ka-grand ang tributary system. If you can notice in the illustration here, there are people over here. There's a lot of people, and there seems to be a ceremony going on. So this tributary system was a gift-giving system. So sana all emperor, I would love to be part of the tributary system, and I'm the empress, because this is basically just a gift-giving ceremony wherein the foreigner would go to the emperor and present an elaborate gift. It had to be a very expensive and very luxurious gift. Okay? They would do this just so they will have the favor of the emperor, and the emperor will allow them to trade with them, because remember, Chinese goods were highly sought after, particularly the tea, silk, and porcelain. So these items, murag, if you don't trade with the Chinese, you're so looy. So these foreigners, murag, bahala na ni uwaw ning tributary system. Oy, basta, we will go there. And then they would be like, oh, emperor here. And then they would do all of that. Okay? So, because they were really, really desperate to get goods. Plus, they were pagyud expected to do the koto. Okay? The koto is this bow. Okay, wherein you are on all fours, and then your forehead and your nose will touch the ground. That is a very low bow. It's not just a bow like that. Grabe naman gani if you bow, ha? Like, for example, if your teacher will expect, oh guys, when I enter the room, you bow. Even if it's just a neck bow, it's kind of like, kuyawa. But look how low this koto is. It's really so low on all fours, And then your forehead and your nose, the tip of your nose, must touch the floor. Foreigners were expected to do this as they give their gifts to the emperor. And this ritual acknowledged that the Chinese emperor is the most superior in all the land. And foreigners were willing to do this, bahala na. Yeah, what if your back is bad and it'll just crack when you stand up, or you can't give up your koto because your back cracked already and you're like, I'm stuck, man. And lalo yan mo eh. So, you'll be on a koto forever. Okay? Now, look at this guy. He's taking his koto so intensely. He probably does yoga because he's so flexible. Probably this guy is not as flexible as the other guy, so his koto is not so... Yeah, the guy looks so flat. His koto is so flat already. Why don't you later practice your koto? Let's see how low you can go. Okay, now... Um, so, flattest wins. Oh, your back cracks. It's okay. Now, so this koto, what they were done by foreigners. They were like, you know what? It's worth it because we need those Chinese products. The only country that refused to do this was Japan. You will sense here that there is now a beginning of tension between Japan and China. Actually, when World War II will arrive, China will be one of the victims of Japan. When I think we discussed a little bit of this, the rape of Nanking, you remember this? Wherein Japan just totally attacked and violated human rights when they attacked China. There's always this tension good between the two. Now, the Chinese views trade as a privilege given to foreigners, and it's not a right. China was like, if you want to trade with us, you have to court our favor. This is not a right. This is a privilege. So you have to seek our favor so that we will give you the privilege to trade with us. And Chinese officials selected only a few commercial firms known as Hongs. Okay, this is actually why Hong Kong is named Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was a Hong before. Now, what is a Hong? A Hong is a commercial firm. It's a business, and that is the place where you trade. So you see this building here. This is the Hong. This is not Hong Kong though. This was the only Hong in China, and this is found in Canton province. Canton province does not exist anymore. It has already been exchanged to Guangzhou, the Guangzhou province in China, which until now is still one of the largest commercial areas in China. So many business people who want to get Chinese goods. There is a very big yearly, I think it's thrice a year, a trade fair in the Guangzhou province. So grabe gyud ni siya. But before it was called Canton. Actually, this is the source of Pancit Canton, because Pancit Canton originated in Canton province. And that's why, I don't know, man, I really want Pancit Canton now. I hate when I say food stuff here because then I can't stop thinking about it and I just want to rush the lecture so that I can start eating. Okay, now, so this Hong, this is in the Canton province. This is the only port that was open to foreigners. If you were a foreign merchant, you cannot trade in any other port in China. You can only trade with the Hong in Canton. That was it. Okay, if you do not go through the Hong in Canton and you're a foreigner, that would be considered illegal. Okay, that is illegal trade. Now, if you think that is stringent enough, check out the other rules that the Chinese had with respect to foreign trade. Number one, no foreign warship may sail inside the inlet to the river. Because as you can see here in this picture, the Hong is in front of a river. If you go to the Guangzhou province now, it still kind of looks the same. The buildings just look more modern. Okay? So, first rule, no foreign warships can ever travel here, just trading boats. Rule number one. Rule number two, neither foreign women nor, that's not, so please make that change. Neither foreign women nor firearms may be brought into factories or warehouses. Women were not allowed inside for some reason, and firearms were not allowed inside. Foreign factories shall employ no maids, no females, and no more than 8 Chinese male servants. If you want to hire servants, you cannot hire maids or female servants. You can only hire male servants, and your limit was 8. Grabe sila, no? I think they did not want the foreign men to be attracted to the Chinese women and have mixed race children. Okay? Imagine if every country who traded with China suddenly didn't trade with China. That's true. But you know what? That did not happen because they had tea, silk, and porcelain, the big three, and everyone wanted it. Crazy rich Asians. Yeah, it started here. Foreign trade must be conducted through the Hong merchants. Foreigners living in the factories must not move in and out too frequently, although they may walk freely within 100 yards of the factory. So they had to stay within 100 yards of the factory. They cannot go out if you are in the warehouse. Grabe no, di ka kalakaw kung foreigner ka. Foreigners may neither buy Chinese books or learn Chinese. They can't quarantine. Yes, it's like they were being quarantined. Okay, they may not buy Chinese books or learn Chinese. No, not allowed. It's not over. Foreigners may not communicate with Chinese officials except through the Hong. The only Chinese you can talk to basically are the Chinese who were in the Hong. Foreigners are not allowed to row boats freely in the river. They may, however, visit the flower gardens and the temple opposite the river in groups of 10 or less, 3 times a month, on the 8th, the 18th, and 28th. They shall not visit other places. Wow! It's so grabe. It's so grabe yun. So, the foreigners, of course, if you're a foreigner, you really feel kind of annoyed when you're there. But you're like, you know what? I'm annoyed, but I don't have a choice. I want tea, silk, and porcelain. Remember those 3 products, Jude. Okay. Hi. Foreigners, apa ha? Foreign traders must not remain in Canton after the trading season. Even during the trading season when the ship is laden, when a ship is laden, it means the anchor is down. When the ship is laden, they shall return home or go to Macau. China was like, don't stay here. Trading season is over. Leave. If you really want to stay in this area, go to Macau, okay? Which was a Portuguese colony. So foreigners were there. Anyway, the Portuguese were there. So, Kau, atumus Macau. Not here. Go, leave. Trading season is over. This is really how much the Chinese did not like foreign presence. Now, King George III of Britain now wanted change. They said, I don't really like this. I don't like that we are being treated like low class citizens. And then so they did not want this. They did not want this treatment. Okay, now, eventually the British really resented this because the British are proud people also. So the British King George, sent Lord Macartney. Okay, Lord Macartney went to Peking as the representative of King George of England. His instructions were to normalize trading rules between China and Britain. So, that was his mission. Try to talk kuno to the emperor there, be, and try to negotiate. It's really so restricting. It's so demeaning. Please, let's try to normalize the trade situation. He asked for more ports to be open to trade. And he said, may we please have local residents? If you think I've stopped thinking about Pancit Canton, I have not. It's floating around in my subconscious. I'm thinking about Lord McCartney, and all of a sudden, a flash of Pancit Canton moves across my. I just want Pancit Canton. Now, He requested local residence for traders. So he said, can traders at least live in China? Those who are really employed permanently as British traders, please let them live permanently in China. And can we preach Christianity? Frankly, I believe Lord McCartney asked for too much, particularly when he said, may we preach Christianity. I think that the emperor will not like this. Now, Emperor Qianlong, when McCartney first met the Emperor Qianlong Pagyud, it was immediately clear that this meeting would not work. Because first of all, McCartney did not do the full koto. He did the one knee bow. Na kanang he will just drop to one knee and he lowered his head because he said, that's good enough for our king in England. It should be good enough for you. Kaproud said, Uy, excuse me, you are on foreign land. So first of all, he did not do the koto, nagpa-proud effect yun siya. Okay. Plus, when McCartney presented the emperor with a birthday gift because he visited the emperor on his birthday, he presented he presented the king with a birthday gift, but the emperor Qianlong said, you gave me tribute, so you are submitting to the tributary system and you are acknowledging that I am superior. And McCartney was like, wait, no, it's a birthday gift, not a tribute. But the emperor was like, too late, I consider it as a tribute. Thank you for your tribute. So, oh my, grabe, naglibog sila. So, Qianlong listened. Qianlong listened and he was like, okay, these are your demands. Okay, I'm gonna write a letter to your king. And here are some of the things that he wrote to the king. He said that the Celestial Empire, he called China the Celestial Empire. Remember, mandate of heaven? Celestial refers to heaven. The Celestial Empire possessed an abundance of all things, and he had no need for the products of foreign barbarians, calling the British barbarians. I don't need your product. I actually don't really need to trade with you. So, I'm sorry, no. You're foreign barbarians. I don't need your stuff. China's trade in tea, silk, and porcelain was carried on so that other nations could share in their country's abundance. Qianlong was like, you know what? The reason why we're trading with you is so that you can taste sad how rich we are. And at least you can see the products that we have that's super awesome, super duper cool. And you don't have it, but we have it. Okay? Oh my. And he denied all of British demands. Plus, he wrote this. The requests submitted by your envoys not only violate the laws of the Celestial Empire, but are vain, impracticable, and not ever in your best interest. We trust that you will share our views and forever be obedient. The laws of the Celestial Empire are very strict. Do not say that you were not warned. And in the conclusion, he said, tremble and obey. Oh my. It's like Qianlong, pag hinay-hinay diha dong. So Britain said, ing ana di ay ha? Okay then. If you're gonna be like that, then we're gonna be rats. We are going to learn the ratty dealing. So, when China did this, Britain just kind of like retreated and they waited to bide their time. Now, you have to understand something about trade here. Diba? When you think of trade, you think that you are going to exchange one item for another. Sige, let's exchange that adapter for that clip. Let's trade, okay? But China did not do trade like that. China is actually one of the first countries who was very strict, and he said, and China said, we will only deal with you in silver. If you want to buy from us, give us silver. That's all we want, silver. Do not try to entice us with your items because we have so much stuff here in China. We're not gonna trade, okay? Give us silver. So they actually had a very hard time. Britain had to make sure that they had enough supply of silver. And one of the ways that Britain did this was trading in opium. Here comes the drugs, okay? So, the only way for Britain to increase their supply of silver so they can buy stuff from China is to have an opium trade in India. India is actually when Britain was in India, you remember Britain was in India for a very long time. One of the things that the British had India produce was opium. And opium is a drug. Okay, it is a very powerful drug. And I already introduced that to you. It was a narcotic drug. It will make you like chill. It will make you hallucinate. And people were very addicted to it. This is what opium looks like. It comes from poppy. I don't know why Princess Poppy was named Princess Poppy in Trolls. Does that mean that she was a drug? She was pretty high. And then that's not a blueberry, no. That is what an opium it's so cute. It's such a cute looking plant. And it frankly looks like Princess Poppy here with the hair and the like that. So maybe Trolls was just an opium advertisement. So if you watch Trolls, you're gonna be like, maybe I should try some opium. I hope that was not the yes. Okay, high personality. Now, opium is a narcotic drug, and you can there's a sap that comes from this plant. This plant is called poppy. And this poppy, when you get it and then you dry the sap, you can smoke it. So you actually smoke opium, okay? By the 1830s, a million, not even a million, millions of Chinese were already addicted to opium because the British in India, they started to smuggle opium to China. Nga, oh, this is a drug, ana. And so many Chinese, because it was legal back then, got addicted. So now Britain saw an opportunity. Nga, okay, now we have a grip on China because they love our product. There is one product that they want that is not silver, and that is opium. Do you understand? Before, all the Chinese wanted was silver, but now they wanted a particular product, and that was opium. So now Britain had that one product that the Chinese wanted. Nga addict na ra ba ang mga Chinese? They started to put opium dens all over China. An opium den is kind of like a Starbucks, but instead of serving coffee, they serve opium. Okay? So people go there, hey, you wanna chill at the opium den? So this is what an opium den would look like. So a bunch of Chinese would gather around and smoke opium and become all high and stuff. And these opium dens were all over China. Okay? And then the government, the Chinese government started to get concerned because this was legal. And so people are like, okay, lunch break, asamanta, opium den. Okay, so they would go to the opium den and then they would be so useless to go back to work. And then the Chinese government saw that the productivity was starting to get affected. The economy was starting to get affected. And they were like, you know what? This whole opium deal is really not a good idea. So this widespread addiction finally prompted the Chinese government to act decisively against the opium trade. So they were like, you know, this is not good anymore. So they went Duterte on the people. Nga, sige, patokhang ni natong mag-opium trade. Okay? The war against drugs. Opium dealers were arrested and executed, but smuggling continued to increase. When you are addicted to a drug, you will do anything to get it. So now that it was illegal, there were still people who were trying to get opium illegally through smuggling. Okay? Now, so this is this is my last opium. Ay nako. Okay, now the emperor sent an official to Canton. You know, the military was sent there to try to stop the opium addiction. And then the official imprisoned British traders and government authorities. And some of these British traders were executed. This thing, when the British heard it, they used it as an excuse to attack China. Okay? They use it as an attack. What? Some of our British officials were killed in Canton? This means war. But you know what? I really believe it was not out of concern for those British officials. They really just wanted an opportunity to war against China and to somehow seek control. So the Opium War started. There were three Opium Wars actually, and the Chinese lost all three because they were all high. Okay? They're like, okay, let's fight war. They were all drugged up. So I don't know how they would have won that war. They were all high and like whatever. Okay. So the British moved from Canton and occupied the island of Hong Kong. So now they put their base in Hong Kong and they started to attack Canton in particular from there. The Chinese forces were badly organized. They were all high. Their equipment was so low tech compared to the British warships. And finally, after 3 years, oh, I did not hear that, Wacky. Maybe you can send me an article or something. Okay, so for 3 years, the Opium Wars went on, and China really got clobbered. They got clobbered over and over and over again until they just had to ask for peace from the British. And of course, the British were like, ha ha, now we have you. Before you were so proud and you did not give us an inch, now we're going to walk all over you. So the British were like, now we have you. So erase all the trading rights. Grabe ha, adto eh. The British really took advantage of this victory and they were like, okay, it's time. There was one port before. Now we want you to open 5 ports for the British. And the trade should be free. We can preach Christianity and we can have trading residency. All those laws were just thrown out the window. Okay? The Hong Kong Pagyud was officially transferred because the Chinese could not pay. The Chinese could not pay war reparations because if you lose in war, you have to pay the winner for war reparations. They could not pay, man. So they were kind of like, okay, just get Hong Kong. Take Hong Kong, it's yours. And that is actually why Hong Kong was under the British for a very long time. Okay, now the treaty, I really like this. The Treaty of Nanking was actually the treaty that ended the Opium Wars, and all those provisions were what do you call this, given to the Chinese nga. And then it was very clear that now the British were the ones in control of China. So during this time, this is an actual picture of the Yellow River being crazy, and I don't know why those people look so calm. So the Yellow River in China, the Huanghe, is being insane. And look, I don't know why there are people who are just like, wow, cool. I would freak out if I saw a river doing that, like honestly. Like, yeah, like this is now pagyod. So during this time, when the British were very in control already of trade and all of that, disasters started to happen. In the dynastic circle, you know that they take disasters as a sign that it's time to overthrow the government. So when they saw that the Manchurian dynasty could not really handle the pressures that the British were putting on them, so they were like, okay, it's time to overthrow. And so secret society started to form in China. Okay? Discontented young men and women in the villages began to band together in secret anti-government societies. Such societies formed always during this time. In the entire history of China, you will always see that there are secret societies that form when they do not trust the ruling dynasty anymore. Yeah. It's kind of like the Katipunan yun nga. They had secret handshake, secret ritual, they swore absolute loyalty and all of that. And one of the oldest secret societies was the White Lotus. Okay, so the White Lotus was one of the oldest secret societies, and this was more for the North. But I believe the cooler one, quote unquote cooler one, is the Triad. Okay, the Chinese Triad Society, because this actually became like a mafia. Okay, do you know what the mafia is? It's kind of like a secret crime organization. The Chinese Triad, it started as It started as a secret society that was meant to overthrow the Manchus, but eventually they became a mafia. They became like a secret society, and they really their organized crime kaayo. Grabe, the triad is still very, very much active now. So they're a large criminal organization, and grabe jud ka. Grand Theft Auto, I really do not like that game, ha? It's so violent and it's bastos and it's teaching you bad things, okay? Now, so, hi. Okay. But sure what? 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 Okay. So it's historical. You're learning history from GTA. The one good thing you learned from GTA was that there's a triad. Okay, now, anyway, so the triad society was there, and of course, they they became very successful, and they became very successful, but in the matter of ousting the Manchurians, it was the Taiping rebellion that actually was the most successful. And Taiping means great peace, okay? One of the ways they showed their rebellion was they cut off their queues. A queue is, it's like queue, Q-U-E, Q-U-E-U-E. That's how a Q is. I'm going to put it in the chat box, ha. Q-U-E-U-E. That is what a Q is spelled like. This is a Q because this hairstyle was imposed on all Chinese, where you shave half of your head and then the half of your head you grow into a very long ponytail. Do you see that? It's braided and it's very, very long. Okay? So, the Taipings, as their first sign of rebellion, is they cut those cues off. They were like, you don't, this is a sign that we are not going to submit ourselves to the Manchus anymore. And the leader of the Taiping rebellion was this man, Hung Xiu Chuan. He started this Taiping rebellion. He was actually a village teacher and had read some Christian missionary writings as well as Chinese classics. So he was a very well-read and educated man. But he failed the civil service exam so many times, probably 8 times. He spelled the he failed the civil service exams probably around 7 or 8 times. And because of these repeated failures, he had a mental breakdown. He had a mental breakdown, and then when he had a mental breakdown, he became crazy. He started to get convinced that he was the younger brother of Jesus. Okay? He started to say, nga, hala, murag ako may younger brother ni Jesus. Ka weird ana oy, grabe siya nag-breakdown, no? I bet nag-opium ni siya oy. Okay. And then he started to teach that he was the younger brother of Jesus, and he was sent to China to be China's savior from the British, from the Manchus, from all their trouble. And desperate people listened to him. The Taipings actually grew to millions. He had so many followers. I don't know who is crazier, the crazy person or the people who voluntarily follow the crazy person. I don't know which one is crazier. I don't know. I've heard of this before in church. Really? That's interesting. Okay, now, aside from the usual demands that the Taiping did, rights, privileges, stop grabbing our lands, they had a very interesting provision for women. When the Taipings urged reform, one of their demands was please go easier on our women. Okay? Please, because a quarter or 1/4 of the membership of the Taipings were women. And the women's were like, please give us rights again. It's so kapoy to be a Chinese woman during these times. So that is one of their demands, particularly in the abolishing of foot binding. Okay? So the Chinese women were actually commanded to do foot binding. Okay? Now, this is when the foot of a Chinese woman was wrapped in very strong linens when she was a baby so that the feet will not grow. so that instead of the feet growing like this, the feet will grow like this, and it will form kind of like a petal of the lotus. So if you can see, the toes are already there. Like, look at this woman with lotus feet. Now, not only was this considered beautiful, this is one of the symbols of beauty, because they want to put these lotus feet, which look like this, into these small kind of shoes. The Chinese men always wanted the women to walk slowly, so that the women dili mag-una-una og lakaw ngadto, they had to walk slowly, and this is one of the ways that they wanted to control their women. And the women were really saying, please, can we please abolish that? Man, if I had a time machine and I'll go to China and they will see my size 7.5 foot, they're probably gonna all freak out and think I'm the ugliest monster they've ever seen. You'd be like, look at my feet, and I'm not lotus. Oh my, they'll probably like, she's so gross. Yep, but I'm free. Ay, nako, it's so grabe. She- and then, but my feet are big. So if the Chinese people during this time saw my feet, they'll be like, she's a monster. They'll think I'm mountain lady from my hero because I have big feet. Anyway, so that was one of the things, and thankfully it really got abolished. And some women actually got sad about that, because they're like, oh no, how am I going to be pretty now? I will have regular feet. Oof. But I saw a horror movie once about a Chinese woman with lotus feet, and you can hear her like, that's the sound you hear before she kind of attacks you. That was, yeah, I forgot what movie it was, but that was like the concept of the whole horror film. Anyway, so the Taiping rebellion was actually very successful in kicking out the Manchus, and they established their capital in Nanking. And Nanking they named it the Heavenly Kingdom of the Great Peace. Heavenly Kingdom because younger brother baya kuno siya ni Jesus, and so kana Heavenly Kingdom of the Great Peace, and they established their capital there. But one thing they did not have was the support of the British, because quite mysteriously the British never supported them. They kept supporting the Manchus. They were like, ay, buang man tingali ni ang mga Taiping. Oy, they seem like a crazy bunch of people. We're not going to support them. It's just not something that we want to do. We want to support the Manchus. We want to put them back in power. So the British, as you can see here, they were on the Manchurian side, and they were able to crush the Nankings. But the Taipings, when the Taiping rebellion was eventually broken, the Manchus were brought back to power. But they were now puppets. So they were now puppets. The Manchus were now puppets of the British, and the British had the real power. And this time, the worst nightmare of China happened. And that is, so many foreigners went now to China and divided China into spheres of influence. Meaning, if you can see the map here, the Japanese controlled these parts, including Manchuria, Taiwan, and then the Russians controlled Mongolia. The British controlled the green parts. The Germans controlled, kalo is a German, kanang that red part, and the French controlled the yellow part. So now, the orange part. So now, these foreigners went to China and divided China like a piece of cake. So now China did not only have to face the sad reality that they were controlled by one foreigner, now there were so many foreigners all around Japan, and they just could not believe it. Okay? They were demanding privileges. The French were there, the Russians, the Germans, even the Japanese. The Japanese was also given control. And when we learn about Japanese history, you're gonna know why nag-apil-apil ang Japan dire. Ngumra with Japan. Asian man unta ka, hold up. And then why are you here? And then we're going to discuss that when we if I go that direction, it's going to be too long already. But this is really the point wherein China China's spirit was so crushed. Remember, this time period is not ancient na ha. This is already padung 19th century, 20th century na ni. Naana ni padung World War One, World War Two. It was already in like 1850 above. So, so that was kind of like what was going on during this time, and the spirit of the Chinese was very crushed, and this is actually why eventually they would choose communism. But you remember what communism does, right? Communism isolates China again, and it gets rid of all foreigners. And China is actually not over trying to get rid of foreigners until now. They still hate America, they still hate Britain. It's not over. Their trauma from this time period is still raging in their hearts. Lisod, the grudge level of China is very, very high and very long. Okay? So that is our lecture on this time period of China. For next week, we are going to learn more about how the Chinese tried to fight this and what they are doing now in the more modern history of China. So thanks.